At number 10, we have Holly Madison. Holly was known for being Hugh Hefner's #1 girlfriend during the early 2000s, where her daily life was documented on the reality show Girls Next Door. Well, in 2015, she shared her experience living in the Playboy Mansion and sharing the bedroom with Hefner in her book titled Down the Rabbit Hole: Curious Adventures and Cautionary Tales of a Former Playboy Bunny. She described it almost like a cult because they were gaslit into expecting to think of Hefner as a nice man and not at all what they say in the media. They had a 9 o'clock curfew and was encouraged to not have any friends over, before adding you weren't really allowed to leave unless it was like a family holiday, which is just a few reasons why it's easy to become isolated from the outside world. She was also pressured to quit her waitressing job after he expressed his jealousy towards it and insisted on giving her $1,000 a week instead. She described it as being trapped as she feared limited professional possibilities and her fear to admit how she was actually at a low point in her life as Hefner had emotional control over her. Intimacy was also a popular topic for the former couple for obvious reasons surrounding Playboy's image. But before moving into the mansion, she was told that no intimacy would be involved with Hugh Hefner. But that was proven false as he offered her substances that he called thigh openers, which she declined, but did end up drinking when she first had her physical encounter with Hefner and his multiple other girlfriends. And for number 9, we have LaToya Jackson. I'm assuming you can already recognize the name, as LaToya was the 5th out of the 10 siblings born to the Jackson family. With such a successful family, with the media always being curious on what goes on behind the scenes, it was only before a time when shocking secrets would be released. In her book titled Growing Up in the Jackson Family, she accused her father for harming all of her siblings before adding her mother knew about it and allowed it to happen. Not only did she accuse her father Joe for the physical harm, but she also alleged her sister Rebby and herself have experienced SA that was committed by their own father. But she later on retracted this and said her husband at the time forced her to make these claims to increase book sales. Beyond just these claims, she has also said her other brother Jackie had an affair with Paula Abdul, and when his wife found out, she tied her onto a chair to interrogate her. And for number 8, we have Prince Harry. He addressed a bunch of different things in his memoir titled Spare. He of course talked about the tension between him and his wife Meghan Markle and his brother Prince William and his wife Kate Middleton, which we will get into in a bit. But he also discussed the controversial and harmful past costume he played as, and also his true feelings about his stepmom, and even talking about how he lost his V-card with an older woman. But also drew attention to the early aspects of his life when his mother Princess Diana passed away due to a car accident. Harry describes how his father, who is now King Charles III, informed him of his mother but did not give him a hug. He also went to take a taxi to the scene where his mother passed years later to try and end the pain. Him and William always had a brotherly rivalry, which worsened when he married Meghan in 2018, and even recounted an argument that occurred a year later in 2019 where William called Meghan difficult and rude, which apparently many upper-class Englishmen refer to Americans with those words, before grabbing him by the collar and knocked him down, where Harry suffered from cuts and bruises. And after the funeral of Prince Philip in 2019, their father encouraged the two brothers to make up. None of those who represent the royal family has commented on any of these allegations. And for number 7, we have Jamie Lynn Spears. I'm sure we all know by now, Britney released her tell-all memoir just recently, but did you know her younger sister and former star of the show Zoe 101 also released a memoir? Her book titled Things I Should Have Said is, well, of course, about the things she thought and believed she should have said. As we know now, Britney and Jamie are not on good terms, and in her memoir, she talks about the conservatorship their father had over Britney and described their family as tight-knit before what was torn apart by money. And in her words, distorted truths and undisclosed personal issues. She admitted fame changed everything as she felt insignificant compared to her older sister, who was at the height of her fame. And of course, she talked about her teenage pregnancy as Zoe 101 was coming to an end, and she broke up with her then boyfriend Casper, although after there were rumors that he was cheating on her. But the two did reconcile for a bit, and during that time conceived their daughter Maddie. And of course, Alexa Nicholas, who was one of Jamie Lynn's co-stars, had been very vocal about how she felt bullied on set. But according to Jamie, it was just because Alexa grew jealous of her and began to spread rumors about her. What do you think about Alexa and Jamie's tension? For number 6, we have Jeanette McCurdy. Similarly to Jamie, Jeanette was best known for her role on a Nickelodeon show as she played Sam in iCarly and in Sam and Cat, which she co-starred with Ariana Grande. The title of her memoir alone is enough to capture readers' attention, as it's called I'm Glad My Mom Died. And of course, she details how her mom basically forced her into the acting industry, and she developed anorexia as a child, which didn't help her character Sam on iCarly, who was always indulging in foods, with episodes focusing on Sam's love of fat cakes and eating buckets of fried chicken. And as of her mom, she recalls when she was 8, her mom wouldn't take her to the bathroom because she claimed it was unprofessional, but one day she couldn't hold it in anymore and she tearfully apologized to her mother, who insisted on also wiping her behind because she didn't trust Jeanette to do so. She also detailed how her mother would regularly perform examinations to her breast and private areas for cancerous lumps, and even at the age of 12, her mother was still bathing her. She also introduces someone in her memoir as the creator, who many believe is Dan Schneider, who is known for creating shows like Zoe 101, Victorious, Drake and Josh, iCarly, and so many more, as she suffered years of harm from the creator, and Nickelodeon even offered her $300,000 to never speak about her experience while working under the company, which she turned down. There is just so much more detailing issues surrounding working with Ariana Grande and her close friendship with Miranda Cosgrove. And for number 5, we have Carrie Fisher. You may know her best for her iconic role as Princess Leia in the Star Wars franchise. She also voiced Angela on Family Guy before unfortunately passing away in 2016. In her memoir titled The Princess Diarist, Carrie revealed she had an affair with Harrison Ford, who plays Han Solo, while the two were filming the first Star Wars movie in the 70s. At the time, she was 19 and he was 33, married and had 2 kids. She recalled the first time the two spent some intimate time together was after George Lucas's 32nd birthday in his studio car. This went on for 3 months before she ended things, and they never acknowledged anything that had happened. Before she passed, she was surprised how many people were shocked because it happened 40 years ago, and she even warned Ford about what she was going to be discussing before publishing, even sending him a manuscript, and his response was lawyer. For number 4, we have Leah Remini. In her memoir called Troublemaker, she revealed many things about the Church of Scientology, as she was a longtime member since she joined when she was only 9 years old alongside her parents in 1979 and left in 2013. She explained how minors are considered spiritual beings and not children who are in need of protection and guidance. She explained how you are the only one responsible for the condition of your life regardless of your age, as many of the children were constantly left on their own as they believed they can make up their own minds. This resulted in some children being forced out of their own homes and either had to sleep at strangers' places or just squatting. Leah also said she witnessed several babies, including her sister Shannon, being neglected by their nursery, if you can even call it that. She described the nursery as a motel room filled with cribs of crying, neglected babies, with the room smelling like dirty diapers. There was only one source of ventilation, which was a fan, and the person that was in charge was a random teenager who was hardly qualified to take care of children. And for number 3, we have Constance Wu. You may know her for starring in the movie Crazy Rich Asians or Fresh Off the Boat. In her memoir titled Making a Scene, she detailed a time a producer from Fresh Off the Boat actually SA'd her, and after she spoke about this, she received a DM from a former colleague that shamed her for opening up and sharing her story. And because of this, she attempted to take her own life, but luckily a friend was there and took her to a psychiatric emergency room. And for number 2, we have Grace Jones. This songwriter, actress, and model has been rumored to be using a bunch of a certain substance, which I will just call cola. According to Grace in her memoir, I'll Never Write My Memoirs, she revealed how she used way less cola than she was rumored to be using, but when she did want to experience the sugar rush, she would have to take cola from her rear end. But she would actually prefer to take it that way, as she said it felt fantastic. But I'm sorry, I can't say that without thinking of her memoir now. She also revealed she has an inside joke with Prince Charles and Queen Elizabeth. Kind of iconic if you ask me. And she won't go on stage unless she's been fully paid before the show starts. For our number 1 spot, we have Drew Barrymore. In her memoir Little Girl Lost, she discussed various issues she's faced from a young age. She landed her first job at 11 months old when she appeared in a puppy Sweet Chow commercial. And 5 years later, she got her first movie role in a horror movie called Altered. And her entire family has deep ties into Hollywood, as even her great-grandparents were working as actors. Her father was harmful towards her family and he left when she was just 6 months old, and by 13 she already went through rehab. She explained how she would pour liquor over her ice cream at 7 years old and had her first experience being intoxicated from drinking at 9 years old at a birthday party for Rob Lowe. Her and her mother would party between 1 and 5 days a week, and at 10 years old, her friend's mom was using pot in the car while driving, where Drew wanted to try some but was worried her mother's friend would say no. But instead, she offered Drew the substance.
Number 10, best friends with Tom Cruise. For years, people have speculated about Jada's relationship with the actor, and in her new book, she actually confirms it. After becoming friends on the set of the movie Collateral, Tom and Jada discovered that they have a mutual love of motorcycles, and so they went riding together on his dirt bike track. In her memoir, Jada said that she tried to jump her bike off a ramp, but she wasn't able to manage the landing and she was thrown off the bike. Tom then rushed over to her to make sure that she was alright, and he suggested that they should stop for the day. Quote, "I looked up at him and asked a really important question of him and of myself. How many times have you reminded me not to let fear stand in my way? If I don't get back on this bike right now and do another lap, I may never get on a bike again." Jada said that in response, Tom smiled and helped her get on her feet. And this isn't the only celebrity who gave her advice. Jada said that during a lunch with Warren Beatty, the actor told her that she often comes off as abrasive at times and suggested that she allow her delight to show through more often. And this was the first time anyone had taken the time to put this to her in such a non-judgmental way, so she appreciated it. Number 9, Chris Rock asked her out. This one was a little hard to believe considering just how much their relationship has soured over the years. But according to Jada, there was once a time that Chris Rock was interested in her romantically, and she considered him as well. She said that she got to know another side of Chris while they filmed the 2005 movie Madagascar. She wrote, "I found him to be quirky, with an unexpected sweetness, and very intelligent, with a biting wit that's impressive if you are on the right side of it." Jada claimed that she would later feel the burn of being on the wrong side of it when Chris targeted her during his 2016 Oscars monologue, the year that she and Will Smith publicly sat out the awards ceremony over a lack of nominations for industry members of color. Jada said that she was shocked that she was being called out. She wrote, "Why me? When there are so many others who have been more vocal." The dig was even more baffling to Jada, given that she says Chris once asked her out. This was around the time that rumors were going around that she and Will had been divorced. Apparently, Chris called to ask her out on a date, but once he found out that she wasn't actually divorced, the two of them just laughed about it and he apologized profusely. Number 8, exposing their fake marriage. Jada revealed the truth about her relationship with Will, and it was not all that people expected. We now know that they have been separated and have lived completely separate lives since 2016, nearly 20 years after they married in 1997. In a new interview, Jada details more about their relationship, both how it started and where it stands now. So here's the story. While the two of them are legally married, Jada said that her and Will are no longer romantically together, though they never actually got divorced on paper. When she was asked about why she never shared their relationship status before, she said it just came down to them not being ready yet and still trying to figure out between the two of them how to be in this new partnership. And also, they just hadn't figured out how to present that to people. When asked about what led to their relationship fracture, Jada said there was a lot of reasons. Quote, "By the time we got to 2016, we were just exhausted with trying. I think we were both kind of still stuck in our fantasy of what we thought the other person should be." Jada says that she has considered a legal divorce. She's never been able to go through with it. Number 7, That Red Table Talk episode. During the couple's 2020 episode of the Red Table Talk, they opened up about her entanglement with singer August Alsina. According to Jada, Will wasn't originally supposed to be on the show with her, but he later decided to join. She wrote, "Frankly, I was surprised, pleasantly so, considering we weren't together, and given where we were sitting in our relationship at the time, that was unexpected." She said that it felt like a powerful offering, but she was then surprised when the conversation with Will took an unexpected turn, when he made it sound like he was the one who had been done wrong. Quote, "At this point, Will had been free as a bird for the last 4 years, living his life on his own terms." She said that Will framed her relationship with August to make it seem like it had been a secret to him when that wasn't true, which is where she should have stopped the conversation. But Jada did not want to oppose her husband publicly. She said that instead she decided to take the blame. They ended the conversation on a lighter note, but apparently Will got in a final sting. Quote, Laughing but truly serious, he proclaimed that we were okay, but with the caveat, "I'm gonna get you back first," which she was not too happy with. Number 6, obsession with Tupac. For a while, Jada has been criticized by fans for her obsession with the late rapper Tupac Shakur, and so far she seems to have no plans of stopping, even though it probably embarrasses Will Smith. So last month, she posted a throwback video of herself and Tupac on Instagram. They were dancing along and lip-singing to the Fresh Prince 1988 hit song, "Parents Just Don't Understand." In the caption, she wrote, "Here is part of the original video of Pac and I doing a terrible job at lip-syncing Parents Just Don't Understand." Then in a 2018 episode of Red Table Talk, Jada also opened up to her daughter and her mother about her relationship with him, and she claimed that they shared an instant connection upon meeting and they became pretty inseparable. She said that over the years he wrote many letters to her and many poems, and then she read a private one that he sent her, which she claims has not even been published. While Jada does get some criticism for how much he reveals about their relationship, fair to say that his death had a major impact on her. She said, "That was a huge loss in my life because he was one of those people that I expected to be here. My upset is more anger because I felt that he left me." Number 5, Tupac's marriage proposal. Jada recently opened up about her relationship with the late rapper, and this time she claimed that he proposed to her in prison during his stay at Rikers Island. She claimed that it was one of the most painful parts of the memoir writing process. But not everyone was buying her story. In fact, one TikTok user challenged Jada's account with a meticulous timeline that cast doubt on her whole version of events. She was questioning the authenticity of her narrative about her relationship with Tupac, and highlighted a pivotal point during the time Jada claimed Tupac proposed to her when he was already engaged to Keisha Morris. That video questions Jada's consistency when placed against the historical timeline, suggesting that her statements may lack accuracy or cohesion. At the time, Jada was transitioning into a relationship with Will Smith, who had recently separated from his wife. So the situation raises the question of when the alleged visit to Rikers Island and the marriage proposal transpired. After Tupac's release from prison, he got engaged to Kidida Jones, who is the daughter of music legend Quincy Jones. Kidida had been with him until his death 8 months later. So the timeline just doesn't make a lot of sense, and you can see why people have been poking holes in Jada's story. Number 4, the last fight. After his release from prison, Jada said that she met Tupac for lunch, which is when they had an argument. She wrote, "His whole vibe changed since his association with Suge." This argument happened when Jada expressed her concern over his new Get Down, which she says kicked off a hailstorm of rage where he accused her of having gone Hollywood. Quote, "Next thing I knew, he was done talking and so was I." Despite the heated disagreement, Jada said that she believed they would eventually patch things up, but that it was up to Tupac to break the ice first. A year went by where they didn't speak, and before they could repair the rift, he was murdered in Las Vegas, and that is what truly broke her. She wrote, "I never once saw myself on this planet without him here, somewhere on it. I felt a huge piece of love for me leave the world, a part of myself gone. In its place was rageful sadness." So it's incredibly sad that things between them ended the way they did, and they just didn't have enough time to repair their relationship before he was gone. Number 3, bought her own ring. After discovering she was pregnant, Jada wrote that Will proposed by insisting that they tie the knot. At the time, she remembers thinking there was no way she was going to have a baby without him marrying her. Even though she was scared as hell, she recounts going to Harry Winston in Beverly Hills the next day and buying herself a pear-shaped diamond. But why on earth would she buy her own wedding ring? Well, she wrote that by buying her own ring, she took some measure of control and sent the message to herself. The message was, "Get with the program." In the days leading up to the wedding, she said that Will was hyper-focused on work and wasn't really paying attention to the wedding. Her mother, Adrienne, was a different story. Jada said that she felt pressured to have a wedding even though she preferred to exchange vows with Will in a small mountaintop ceremony. Quote, "But leave it to Adrienne to plead her case to Will." After she cried her eyes out on the phone, Will took her side, assuring her that we would indeed have a wedding after all. So then the big wedding went ahead, and the couple ended up getting married in Baltimore on New Year's Eve in 1997. While Jada did talk about this event in the book, it's also worth noting that she talked about it on the show. On an episode of the Red Table Talk that featured Jada, Will, her mother, and their youngest daughter Willow, Jada thought it would be a good time to talk about their disastrous wedding. She admitted that she did not want to get married and that she felt like she was pressured to do it. Her mother's reaction to the pregnancy was to just start planning the wedding, because not getting married was not an option for her family. At the same time, Jada was still young and trying to make it as an actress in a competitive and complicated industry, so things were really rough back then. Marriage was understandably the first thing from her mind. Adrienne then brought up how the wedding was pretty much a disaster. She said that Jada was sick, unpleasant, and uncooperative the day of the wedding. But you also have to remember that she was gearing up for the biggest moment of her life, and she didn't even want that to happen in the first place. She was 3 months pregnant too, so being sick was probably an understatement. Jada recalled how she was super angry that day and even cried while she was walking down the aisle, while Will was trying to keep up appearances that things were cool. So by now we all know of Jada's affair with August, but it was a secret that she never wanted exposed, and something that she tried to deny up until the very last minute. This is how it all went down. While promoting his third album, August sat down with the Breakfast Club and claimed that the Smiths, who he considered to be like his family, had an open marriage, and Will allegedly gave him permission to date Jada. Quote, "I actually sat down with Will and had a conversation. He gave me his blessing. This was explosive when it first came out, and it's clear that Jada would have prevented it if she could." Almost immediately, her publicist came out with statements denying any romantic involvement, stating that the claims were absolutely not true. But it was already far too late to backtrack, and the couple finally decided to air their dirty laundry on that one episode of the Red Table Talk. Unbeknownst to the world, Jada Pinkett Smith and Gabrielle Union were secretly not speaking to each other for almost 2 decades. The actresses, who both gained prominence in the late 90s, had long-standing tension between them that led to a 17-year-long feud. Although neither of them can pinpoint the exact moment that caused the rift, both admit to feeling awkward around each other during this period. They finally put an end to the silence in a sweet episode of the Red Table Talk, where they both talked about how they've grown in terms of female friendships. Jada said, quote, "She and I did not talk for 17 years and we could not remember why. There was just tension between us every time we would see each other." She said that there was some moment that they just felt like had a bad taste in their mouths, and years later when they finally got on the phone to try to figure out what happened, they apparently could not figure it out. Jada then suggested that it was probably just the two of them being young divas, but even now they still don't know for sure. Number 10, Justin Timberlake. One of the most discussed sections of the memoir is, of course, what really happened between Britney and Justin. After meeting him in the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, they sparked a romantic connection and Britney fell very, very hard. Unfortunately, she had to make a difficult decision in the year 2000 after she found out that she was pregnant with Justin's baby. At first, she was actually pretty excited about the whole thing, and in her book she revealed that she'd been planning on starting a family with him at some point, so this was just a little earlier than expected. But it turned out that Justin was not so excited. He told her that they were both too young to be starting a family, and he reminded her that their careers would also need to be put on pause. This revelation might be part of the reason why Justin was reportedly so nervous leading up to the book's release. Britney revealed that if the decision had been solely left to her, she would have gone through with the pregnancy, but she decided to go the opposite route instead. She claims to have only done it because Justin so clearly did not want to be a father, which again is something that people are really shocked about. Number 9, Christina Aguilera. Christina and Britney met the same way most young people in Hollywood meet, while auditioning for a TV show. During the first round of auditions, neither of them made the cut, but they were reintroduced after they were casted later on, and even ended up sharing a dressing room during their time on the show. Sadly, it wasn't long before the two of them were pitted against each other in the media, and they were often made to look like rivals. Britney doesn't give too many details about this in the book, but she did mention that she was very confused when Christina was vocally in support of her and Justin getting back together in 2003. She was surprised considering how negative she had been about the situation behind closed doors. She's also completely out of the conversation when she mentions her onstage kiss with Madonna in 2001. Later in the book, Britney actually compliments Christina on her ability to handle nerves when it comes to live TV appearances. She said they would go out together to drink and celebrate, but under the conservatorship, she was to remain sober. She admitted that it would have been nice to let loose with her friends at the time, but now that she is free, hopefully they can get back together. Number 8, Madonna. Madonna's name is mentioned several times throughout Britney's memoir. As a young girl, Britney said she idolized Madonna and did everything to be like her. Once she gained some fame, she was asked to attend award shows. She was bumping into Madonna all around the world. At one point in time, she was staying with Cher when Madonna came for a visit. Britney claims that she found a mentor in her, which gave her the confidence to see her situation with a fresh set of eyes. While rehearsing for the VMAs one year, Britney had the idea to get Madonna involved on her single Me Against the Music. She approached her directly, and the rest is history. Reflecting on her past, she says that if she could go back, she would attempt to be her own everything, her own boss, parent, friend, and partner, because that is what Madonna does. She was in awe of how much she refused to compromise her artistic vision and integrity, something that she has carried with her for all these years. Number 7, Colin Farrell. Shortly after her breakup with Justin Timberlake, Timberlake, Britney talked about the moment that she laid eyes on a handsome guy named Colin Farrell. She met him on the set of The SWAT, and since there were no security on set, she was able to just drive up and pop by for a visit. One day while visiting the soundstage, the director spotted her and asked if she would like to watch them film a scene, and that's when Colin approached her. According to Britney, that was when they got into a fling, and they were eventually so attracted to each other that they literally would not separate for that 2 weeks. Colin even took her to the premiere of The Recruit, where she accidentally wore a pajama top instead of normal clothes. She claimed that the fling was short-lived and ended quickly after she realized that she was just using him as a rebound, considering that she was still not over Justin Timberlake. This revelation is a little sad considering that it's one of the most unexpected celebrity couples to ever appear. Looking back, it's really difficult to imagine the two of them together, but it probably would have been a much more healthy relationship than the one that she had with Justin. Number 6. Rachel McAdams. For anyone who might have forgotten, Britney is not just famous in the world of music, but she actually attempted to get an acting career off the ground for a brief period in the early 2000s. After starring in the movie Crossroads, she auditioned for a role in The Notebook, which is crazy considering that she almost played alongside Ryan Gosling in one of the most iconic romance movies ever made. In fact, she got so far into the casting process that it was just down to her or Rachel, and in the end we all know that they went with Rachel, but that is a choice that Britney fully supported. Apparently she started to get cold feet further on into the process, so instead of being in The Notebook, she went on to work on her album In the Zone, putting her creative efforts to good use despite the Hollywood rejection. While we may never know what that movie would have turned out like, it is something that fans would have loved to see. Number 5. Lynn Spears. Britney's parental relationships are covered a lot in the memoir, where she discusses her strained relationship with her mother Lynn Spears, and this is where we find out a lot more about her childhood and how it was linked with her drinking history. She said she started drinking alcohol with her mom when she was in the 8th grade, which is obviously enough to raise a few eyebrows. But the issue here is that she really didn't just have a sip of wine, it was a whole lot more than that. She wrote, "For fun, starting when I was in the 8th grade, my mom and I would make the 2-hour drive from Kentwood to Mississippi, and while we were there, we would drink daiquiris. We called our cocktails toddies." Britney loved that she was able to drink with her mom every now and then, but said the way that they drank was nothing like how their father did it. When he drank, he grew more depressed and he shut down, whereas they became happier, more alive, and more adventurous. While it sounds like she was a lot closer to her mom, you do have to question that behavior, considering just how young Britney was introduced to drinking, which is actually kind of sad. Number 4. Jamie Spears. Britney and her father have had a complex relationship over the years, and he became one of her biggest critics. In her memoir, Britney shared the harsh judgment that she constantly received from him. She said, "If I thought getting criticized about my body in the press was bad, it hurt even more coming from my own father. He repeatedly told me I looked fat and that I was going to have to do something about it." And Britney endured Jamie's criticism as a young child too. She said, "Feeling like you're never good enough is a soul-crushing state of being for a child. He drummed that message into me as a girl, and even after I'd accomplished so much, he was continuing to do that to me." Jamie's troubling opinions about Britney worsened when she was under her conservatorship. In 2008, her father was named as one of the several individuals who could now make important decisions for her, and when she entered the conservatorship, bodily autonomy was stripped away. She had to grow out her hair and get back into shape. For the next 13 years, Jamie would remain in control of so much of her life up until his suspension in 2021. Number 3. Elton John. The Rocket Man himself actually played a pivotal role in Britney being able to find her musical voice after her struggles with her conservatorship. In her memoir, Britney shared that she hadn't been thinking about recording music until Elton John reached out to her to collaborate on Hold Me Closer, which is a modern duet of his hit song Tiny Dancer, a song that Britney claims to have blasted on repeat growing up. Apparently the remix was actually Elton's idea because he's a huge Britney fan and he's always been a major supporter of hers, which is amazing because Britney has been hinting for a while now that she is ready to get back to work after she finally became free of her nearly 14-year-long conservatorship. On July 15th, she shared an Instagram video of herself singing a new, edgier version of Baby One More Time while doing laundry, and in the caption she wrote, "I haven't shared my voice in an extremely long time, maybe too long." That post really got her fans hyped up because it sounds like she's getting ready for a massive comeback in music. Number 2. Natalie Portman. Who would have guessed that Natalie Portman of all people would be mentioned in the memoir of Britney Spears? But as luck would have it, this is a very small world, and Natalie actually crossed paths with Britney when they were both understudies in the off-Broadway production of Ruthless. They both played a sociopathic child star named Tina Denmark, a role that Britney claims felt close to home for her. Following the split from Justin Timberlake, she co-hosted a New Year's Eve party in New York, which is called Back to the Theater Days. It is difficult to picture Britney Spears on stage doing anything other than singing, but the idea of her also acting in a live show would be pretty cool. So hopefully Britney and Natalie finally get cast together again, and then they can both take to the stage. Between the incredible talent of those two women, there's no doubt that tickets will sell out in a flash. And coming in at number 1, Mariah Carey. Despite being a mega pop star herself, Britney had a fangirl moment when she met Mariah Carey. In the early years of her career, she had been a longtime fan of Mariah's work, and as a kid she would practice performing by making homemade music videos of herself dancing and singing to Mariah's music. She then introduced herself to Mariah by knocking on her dressing room door backstage at an award show that the two of them had been attending. She said that Mariah was a sweetheart and immediately said yes to taking a picture. But in true Mariah fashion, she would not accept anything but good lighting and the right angles for photos. Britney said she did everything that she was told to by Mariah in order to get the right angle. She claimed that she really knows her stuff and the picture looked incredible. Britney knew she had won an award that night, but she said she could not compare her trophy to her picture with her childhood hero. Number 10, Don Lemon. The CNN This Morning anchor had a scathing review of the book and called out Prince Harry for going into detail about the alleged fight between him and his brother William. Lemon slammed that part of the memoir and said that it was gauche to make that allegation public. He said, "Everyone has a family. I have arguments with my family. Am I going to put that out there for the world to see? I just don't understand why on earth he would want to put that out there. I know he's selling a book, but to me it's just gauche. This is not done. What exactly is he achieving by airing family dirty laundry? That's my question." What he's referring to, of course, is the passage in Spare where Harry recalled the moment where tensions with William reached a fever pitch over his relationship with Meghan Markle. In the book, we find out that the confrontation between the brothers became heated to the point where they physically hurt each other. Harry said things escalated when they started exchanging insults at one another, and when William claimed that he was just trying to help, Harry said, "Are you serious? Help me? Sorry, is this what you call this?" Apparently that comment angered his brother, who then lunged at him. Number 9, Judge Judy. Well, here's someone you would not have expected to talk about the memoir, but at least she doesn't mince words. The former family court judge got brutally honest when she was asked about how she would react to a relative writing about family drama for the world to see. Judy went on Good Morning Britain and said, "I will tell you that I would be furious, and I would think that that child or that grandchild was a selfish, spoiled, ungrateful one. That's what I would feel. I think that anyone with a brain would see that it's disingenuous. It's biting the hand that fed you. It's unseemly." And she's not the only one who seems to have taken issue with the fact that Harry is turning on his family. In his 60 Minutes interview, Anderson Cooper pointed out that certain passages from Spare could be seen as hurtful towards members of his family, particularly when describing William's boldness and the constant scowl on his face. Cooper said, "That's pretty cutting," but Harry disagreed and said, "I don't see it as cutting at all." So really, it's these snarky little comments in the book attacking his brother's appearance that make it seem like he truly intended to hurt his family. Number 8, Candace Owens. The conservative commentator is no stranger to voicing her opinions on Prince Harry or Meghan Markle, and so she devoted an entire segment of her podcast to give her review of Spare, even though she admitted to viewers that she did not actually read the book. Instead, she paid someone else to read it, just so that she didn't have to. So obviously she must really detest the royals. Unsurprisingly, Candace's views of the book were pretty negative, with the key criticism being that just by writing it, Harry has removed a huge level of mystery surrounding the royal family that is so desirable to the public. She said, "We wanted to believe that the royal family was unobtainable, that they were better than us, that they were above us, and then something happened. Prince Harry opened his mouth." She went on to say that now the royal family seem more or less like the Kardashians, but she believed that there are elements of the book that not even Kim Kardashian would publicize. Candace called Harry despicable and accused him of hypocrisy, because in order to promote his book, he had to work with the very same media that he criticized so much. Number 7, Piers Morgan. As one of the most notable critics of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the UK talk show host had plenty to say about his new memoir. To sum it up, he believes that Harry has now officially blown it with the royal family and will never be able to undo the damage done by the book. He said, "I have no doubt this is highly entertaining in parts. It's riveting. It's incredibly intrusive. But I mean, you can't just believe what you're reading. This will be a #1 bestseller. Best luck to him, it'll make millions. But at what cost?" Piers went on to say that Harry has completely burned bridges with the entire royal family, and there's really no coming back from that. He said there's no amount of money in the world that would make him do this to his own family, and encouraged everyone to throw out the book. But everyone knows Piers Morgan has never been the biggest fan of the Sussexes. When their Netflix docuseries came out, he fired a series of tweets attacking Harry and Meghan. In one of them, he wrote, "King Charles needs to strip these two poisonous rats of all remaining titles and ties to the royal family, and needs to do it fast before they destroy the monarchy." He compared the series to Keeping Up with the Kardashians and labeled it as disgusting and boring. Number 6. Megyn Kelly. The former Fox News presenter criticized the fact that Harry mentioned the fight with his brother at Nottingham Cottage in 2019. She argued that he did not take accountability for any role that he may have had in the fight, and she believes that including that story was incredibly emasculating because it didn't line up with other moments in the book, like his claim that he killed 25 Taliban fighters while serving in Afghanistan. She said Harry just puts it all on William's anger and how he was this poor victim who doesn't fight back, doesn't shove his brother back, doesn't tell him to get the hell out and then talk to his wife. She went on to say that instead he called his therapist, he called his counselor. Then she said the whole thing feels incredibly emasculating for this guy who clearly wants us to see him as a tough guy. Megyn added that it's hard to imagine how the spat between Harry and his family members could get any worse, because the headlines he has now created about them are so ungracious. She's also called out Meghan Markle for the exact same thing and said that the Sussexes both want the public to feel sorry for them. Number 5. Bethany Frankel. The Real Housewives of New York City star blasted the Sussexes for their latest project after the contents of Spare was leaked to the public, including Harry's account of experiencing frostbite on his genitals. She posted a review on TikTok saying, "Is it too late to change the name of Harry's book to Dirty Harry Laundry? I mean, if I had a nickel for every person who had thrown down with a family member, a brother." She mostly described the oversharing in the book and said, "How much more are we going to read about? Meghan getting a pap smear? I mean, what's next? Honestly, I feel like I'm going to be in a rectal exam with Harry and William. We get it, we got it. What else are we going to do? Like high colonics with the royals?" Back when the docuseries came out, Bethany said that the show was a major cash grab and something that Meghan and Harry decided to do because they were already causing chaos by leaving the family. She also believed that they really wanted to push the Princess Diana comparison, but that achieved the opposite result because Diana was there for 5 times longer than Meghan, and she entered the monarchy when she was only 19, so it would be impossible to make the comparison. Number 4. Sharon Osbourne. The former talk show host appeared on Britain's Talk TV to discuss the new memoir and said that it has turned the life of the royal family into a soap opera. She also described Harry as a man baby and said, "He's so childish yet he's an adult. The things he says are so childish he's got no understanding of the real world." Ironically, Sharon was actually fired from a talk show in 2021, all because of her outspoken views on Harry and Meghan. Following the release of their docuseries, she went on Piers Morgan Uncensored and said, "I was totally bored by the whining. The whining, the whining. It's just so horribly disrespectful and just a whine fest. I mean, is the book going to be the same thing?" She said that Meghan and Harry just need to move on and get a life. She even accused the couple of having a deal with Netflix lined up before they stepped down from royal duties, which would be very bizarre if it turned out to be true. Number 3. Meghan McCain. The former co-host of The View penned a lengthy Daily Mail op-ed about their memoir and claimed that Harry and Meghan are losing America because no one is buying what they're selling. Meghan wrote, "Ask yourself, why did Harry hold back these details about his brother until now? The answer is in part, obviously money." She also added in a scathing review of a passage where Harry claims to have killed 25 Taliban fighters during his time serving in the British Army. She wrote, "Which is it, Harry? Are you the military tough guy who brags about your body count in Afghanistan, or the frightened prince who cowers in front of your brother and rushes to call your therapist? I don't think you can be both." She called the prince insincere, cynical, and duplicitous, bringing up the fact that he and his wife have been on Oprah, sat down for countless media interviews, produced a 6-part Netflix series, but it's only now in his new book that he chooses to reveal his disdain for William. Meghan believed that he was holding on to that nugget for the right moment, and he dealt out his family's dirty laundry piece by piece for maximum effect. Number 2. Kirstie Allsopp. The Channel 4 presenter was quick to criticize the revelations in Spare. She tweeted, "So far there has been no concessions from Prince Harry that any of this is his fault. He and his wife have seemingly done nothing wrong and everything is everyone else's fault. That's not how life works." Kirstie was left entirely unimpressed with how Harry came across and questioned his true intentions behind releasing the book. Quoting his ITV interview, she said, "So they're in bed with the devil, but Harry's just chatting to Tom Bradby on primetime ITV for what?" Not long after that, she tweeted, "What work? Your book, this interview, it isn't about service or charity. This is about you. And let's be honest, Harry and Meghan have briefed and briefed and briefed." Back in December, Kirstie also took a dig at their motives for putting out the Netflix project in the first place. She said, "It's totally okay to leave the family firm, but don't try and crash the share price after you've left. Harry and Meghan wanted to have their cake and eat it too. That's not how it works. Want to be royal? Work for it. If you don't, you're welcome to be like the rest of us." And coming in at number 1, Lorraine Kelly. The TV host aired her frustrations about the book during her ITV program, where she was joined by a number of guests to discuss the Tom Bradby interview. interview, including former veteran Philip Ingram. They discussed Harry's revelations about Afghanistan, and the retired colonel explained that Harry still has so much to offer when it comes to working closely with veterans. Kelly agreed and said, "Yeah, there's so much more that both of them could do together. That's the thing that I think is so frustrating, because you could see how well they work together as a team and the things that they could do. I've always said this, it would be so good if somehow they could have made that work." Her comments came right after Harry's ITV interview, where he talked about the death of his mother, Princess Diana, his relationship with his father, King Charles, and of course his brother William. Harry explained why he chose to go public only now, and said, 38 years of having my story told by so many different people. With intentional spin and distortion, it felt like a good time to tell my own story, and be able to tell it for myself. Well, for better or worse, he's certainly been given the space to share his opinions now. Number 10. Conservatorship. In 2008, Britney was placed on a psychiatric hold, and later under a conservatorship by her father, Jamie Spears. In her book, she explained exactly what she was going through at the time. She wrote, "Shaving my head and acting out were my ways of pushing back. Under the conservatorship, I was made to understand that those days were now over. I had to grow my hair out and get back into shape. I had to go to bed early and take whatever medication they told me to take." Britney revealed that she felt infantilized under the conservatorship and lost her passion for music. She said she became more of an entity than a person on stage. Quote, "I had always felt music in my bones and my blood. They stole that from me." Then we come to one of the best lines in the book. She said, "Think of how many male artists gamble away all their money. How many had substance use or mental health issues. No one tried to take away their control over their bodies and money. I didn't deserve what my family did to me." For anyone who's followed Britney's story over the years, this memoir really feels like a breath of fresh air, and there's just so much we didn't know about her life. Number 9. Pregnancy with Justin Timberlake. In what is now one of the most talked about parts of the book, Britney spills what is the biggest secret of all. She recalls her days on the Mickey Mouse Club, where she met Christina Aguilera, Ryan Gosling, and of course Justin, who she later formed a romantic relationship with. She talked about their first kiss as a Janet Jackson song was playing in the background, and the difficult decision she had to make in 2000 after learning that she was pregnant. She said, "It was a surprise, but for me it wasn't a tragedy. I love Justin so much. I always expected us to have a family together one day. This would just be much earlier than I'd anticipated." But she said that Justin definitely wasn't happy about this pregnancy. He said that they weren't ready to have a baby in their lives and that they were way too young. So we now understand why sources were saying that Justin is concerned about Britney's memoir. She also revealed that if the decision had been up to her and her alone, she never would have done it. But she only did so because Justin was sure that he didn't want to be a father. Looking back at that experience, she said, "To this day, it's one of the most agonizing things that I have ever experienced in my life." Number 8. The 2001 VMAs performance. Britney also opened up about how scared she was of the snake during her iconic performance of "I'm a Slave for You." Apparently she was trying to look down the entire time because if she looked up and caught its eye, she thought it would kill her. Quote, "In my head I was saying, just perform, just use your legs and perform. But what nobody knows is that while I was singing, the snake brought its head right around to my face, right up to me and started hissing." Though she also had another infamous VMAs performance that went down in history. The night that Madonna shared her onstage kiss with Britney and Christina Aguilera live at the 2003 VMAs. It was perhaps one of the most famous moments of controversy, and Madonna kissed Britney full on the mouth and then Christina right after that. The camera then cut to Justin Timberlake's stern expression, which was hilarious because he was dating Britney at the time. So the whole thing was pretty awkward and clearly a publicity stunt with some in-your-face queerbaiting. But the double kiss eventually became one of the most notorious performances of all time, and it's clear that Britney has always been pushing the envelope when it comes to displaying her sexuality. It's just another reason that she's been able to maintain her icon status for so long. Number 7. Relationship with her mother. Britney's parental relationships are covered a lot in the memoir, where she discusses her strained relationship with her mother, Lynn Spears. And this is when we find out more about her childhood and how that linked to her drinking history. She said she started drinking alcohol with her mother when she was in 8th grade, which is obviously enough to raise a few eyebrows. But the issue here is that she did not just have a sip of wine, it was a lot more than that. She said, "For fun, starting when I was in 8th grade, my mom and I would make the 2-hour drive from Kentwood to Mississippi, and while we were there we would drink daiquiris. We called our cocktails toddies." Britney loved that she was able to drink with her mom every now and then, but said that the way they drank was nothing like how her father did. When he drank, he grew more depressed and shut down, whereas they became happier, more alive and adventurous. While it sounds like she was a lot closer to her mother, you have to question this behavior and just how young Britney was introduced to drinking. It's actually really sad. Number 6. The 2007 meltdown. We all know that Britney's time as a global superstar has been riddled with problems. In 2007, she infamously shaved off her hair and attacked a photographer photographer's car with an umbrella. Following that incident, she was placed under a conservatorship. Her father then served as one of her conservators. After 13 years, she fought to end the conservatorship and told an LA court that she simply wanted her life back. She's now opened up about that breakdown and exactly what was going on in her head at the time. The incident involved Britney storming into a California beauty salon and completely shaving her head. She explained that shaving her head was an act of defiance. Quote, "I'd been eyeballed so much growing up, I'd been looked up and down, had people telling me what they thought of my body since I was a teenager. Shaving my head and acting out were my ways of pushing back." She said she was later forced to grow her hair out and take medication after being placed under that conservatorship. And that's when the control really started. After that, she wasn't allowed to drastically change her appearance because her father knew every single thing that she did all the time. Number 5, Almost in the Notebook. Although Britney Spears is best known for her music, she did have a short career as an actress in the early 2000s. She was in Crossroads, which is an experience that she said wasn't easy because of what acting did to her mind. She later goes on to say that she was up for another role in The Notebook, and she got so far in the end that the casting came down to her and Rachel McAdams, who we all know ended up getting the role. Britney said that even though it would have been fun to reconnect with Ryan Gosling after their time on the Mickey Mouse Club, she's glad that she didn't do it, because if she had, instead of working on her album In the Zone, she says she would have been acting like a 1940s heiress day and night. So she has no regrets about missing out on that role. And while the movie turned out to be a classic and probably one of the most iconic romance movies out there, no one really knows what it would have looked like if Britney scored that part. So that is just going to have to remain one of life's biggest mysteries. Number 4, her father's obsession. Britney and her father, Jamie Spears, have a complex relationship, and he became one of her biggest critics. In her memoir, Britney shared the harsh judgment that she constantly received from him. She said, "If I thought getting criticized about my body in the press was bad, it hurt even more from my own father. He repeatedly told me I looked fat and that I was going to have to do something about it." And Britney endured Jamie's criticism as a young child too. She said, "Feeling like you're never good enough is a soul-crushing state of being for a child. He drummed that message into me as a girl. Even after I'd accomplished so much, he was continuing to do that to me." Jamie's troubling opinions about Britney worsened when she was under the conservatorship. In 2008, her father was named as one of the several individuals who could make important decisions for her. And when she entered that conservatorship, her bodily autonomy was stripped away. She had to grow her hair out and get back into shape. For the next 13 years, Jamie would remain in control of much of her life up until his suspension in 2021. That brings us to number 3, lost all control. For 13 years, Britney had little to no say in every aspect of her life after she was placed under conservatorship due to her mental health struggles. She was unable to make financial, physical, and personal decisions that were ultimately left up to her father. In 2021, her conservatorship was dropped, but the trauma did not go away overnight. In her memoir, Britney talked about how this affected her life. She said it stripped her of her womanhood and made her into a child. She truly believes if they let her life unfold the way she wanted it to, she would have found herself in a better place. Quote, "13 years went by with me feeling like a shadow of myself. I think back now on my father and his associates having control over my body and my money for that long, and it makes me feel sick." A huge portion of her life was controlled by other people, and she believes that she just didn't deserve what her family did to her. Number 2, the Mickey Mouse Club. As we know, Britney got her start in the entertainment industry at a very young age, but it wasn't all fun and games. In 1993, she landed a gig on the Mickey Mouse Club at just 12 years old. For the next 3 years, the Mickey Mouse Club would be a huge part of her life, but starring in the show wasn't always easy. Britney said that it was a bit like a boot camp. She wrote, "Being in the show was boot camp for the entertainment industry. Extensive dance rehearsals, singing lessons, acting classes, time in the recording studio, and school in between." Similar to school, she said that the show's cast was divided into cliques, with the younger crowd in one group and the older crowd in another. Although she admits that there were some fun moments like sharing a kiss with Justin, it was still a grueling job. She said it was exceptionally hard work, and oftentimes the group of kids and teens would be in rehearsals practicing choreography 30 times a day. Yes, you heard that right, 30 times a day. The Mickey Mouse Club was a job at the end of the day, and it took up a large chunk of Britney's childhood. And coming in at number 1, finding her voice. Britney has gone through so much in her life, and people don't know the half of it. During court testimony while she was fighting for her freedom, she said that she had been forced to go to a mental health facility against her will in early 2019. It was only in November of 2021 that she regained control of her multi-million-dollar fortune and various aspects of her life, although the court battle over legal fees is still ongoing. During recent hearings, things became very contentious when it came to Britney's personal well-being. In January of 2022, her father's attorney requested to unseal all records from the duration of the conservatorship. The singer's attorney Matthew Rosengart called this offensive and highly inappropriate. At the time, he said, "We don't think a father who loves Spears' daughter would file to unseal her medical records. And about a year ago, her younger sister Jamie Lynn Spears published a memoir called Things I Should Have Said. In it, she included certain details of Britney's life that were told from her own perspective, and it really seemed like she was trying to paint a negative image of her older sister. Fans were outraged by the book and accused her of attempting to profit off of Britney's name while trying to make her look bad.